When the Republicans' HEALS Act was introduced, Nancy Pelosi called it a children going hungry bill. When the new bill was introduced yesterday, Chuck Schumer called it an emaciated bill. Can someone just get them a darn pizza or something? Good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope you're well fed. Unlike Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, this is Afternoons LALATE, our 2-hour programming block, starting every day with a check, then hazard pay, which is this video of incredible big developments, then FPUC, and finally rent. Part of our 3.5-hour programming block every day. Thank you for tuning in, and always like and subscribe to this channel and this video. Let's get to the incredible details on hazard pay. As people saw the bill debuted yesterday from Mitch McConnell that did not have hazard pay in it, and yet Steve Mnuchin represented to us, over the last week several times, that there would be a second bill coming shortly thereafter. And he was not the only one that said that. Mark Meadows, movie Meadows, said it several times that there would be a second bill. It would be about $650 billion. It would come shortly thereafter to deal with these other issues that really need to be addressed. They're a little bit more complicated. And it's there that we thought hazard pay would land. Well, minutes ago, Steve Mnuchin gave us a new wrinkle. He was asked by a series of pool reporters, which is reporters that grow in a group, from different networks, while walking, taking a stroll, running away from Temple of Doom, perhaps. When will there be another stimulus bill round? And when will there be one? His response was, I don't know. You don't know? Wait a second. What do you mean you don't know? You just told us all last week we're doing 2 phases of the stimulus. You said this week is week 1 at 550, and the next week or 2 weeks from now is at 650. You said, I don't know. Maybe. I hope so. I think it's good for Americans. As if this entire week cannot go crazier. Mark Meadows was on certainly the same strange side of Mars planet as well today. Mark Meadows, as you recall, all last week said, we're going to introduce a stimulus bill this week. It'll be $500 billion. It'll have stimulus checks in it, FPUC, schools, and testing. Well, it debuted yesterday, and it's not $500 billion, as I reported in the video just before this, minutes ago. It was revealed it's $700 billion. It doesn't have checks in it. It does have PPP in it, which was not supposed to be in there, upwards of almost $200 billion. And it doesn't have all the things that he promised it would have. Well, as if that's not enough. Yesterday, last week, every single darn day, Mark Meadows says the bill that is introduced this week will get approved within 1 week. Is that he was asked the same question today. Yeah, you see where this is going. He was asked the same question today. He says, I hope we get it done before the election. The election? What are you talking about, Mark? Of course, in the 2 sentences later in the same interview, he was asked basically the same question again. He says, I'm very optimistic it's going to pass right away. Okay, that's schizoid. It's like you just said something totally different 10 seconds ago. Now, if that's not even more crazy, there's widespread reports today from the Republican leadership that the bill will be voted on tomorrow. So what the hell is going on with these people? Well, if you're sitting here wondering where's your darn hazard pay, and you were sitting around hoping it was in the bill that's going to come later this month, because that's what you were told by Steve Mnuchin, you have a different Steve Mnuchin today saying that, I don't know. And as if that's not even more confusing, Steve Mnuchin was asked, what's your top priority after this bill now? He said a clean CR. Not the Honda. The federal budget balancing bill. which apparently he had already agreed upon and didn't have to really work much more on it. That's due September 30th. Now his focus is on the clean CR, not getting into the third stimulus package bill, or the second phase, the one yesterday. Why can't these people get their acts together? It's with that people are just getting a little bit screwy-eyed because they're told one thing by a person, and literally 1 week later they're told something different. In some regards, they're told something different by the same person in the same interview. As to hazard pay, the situation is really heating up, and I have this in front of me, and I got to tell you, some people always ask my opinion, and this is one of my opinions right now. My opinion is that you do not want to piss off the labor unions of this country, because they will absolutely rally behind you and ensure that they do not give you the vote in the fall elections, whatever office you're running for. The labor unions have been very well organized and very pissed off about the failure for governments and businesses and states and cities not to pay hazard pay. It has become a widespread issue in which unions have organized protests. I have covered upwards of 4 different protests in 4 different cities with 4 different businesses in 2 different industries. They were healthcare and they were groceries. And I've always said to you over the last 3 months that grocery unions are the most well-organized, are among the most well-organized unions in the country. They are not happy that their employees are not getting hazard pay, and they're not going to sit around and do nothing about it. What is going on? As one grocery union recently detailed in a press release obtained by LALATE over the weekend, they have upwards of a few hundred deaths for people in their union, and a couple tens of thousands of people who have contracted COVID-19 in their union by working as frontline workers. So if you're going to a fall election, you're a presidential candidate, and you're not going to give anything for frontline workers, you're going to ignore them, you're not going to give them any money if they're cops, or they're police officers, or they're public servants, or they're grocery store workers, or they're shippers, or they're drivers, or they're construction workers, you're just not going to give them anything, and you're going to want their vote. It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. These unions are becoming very, very vocalized. I have some new reports out minutes ago from Montgomery, Alabama, and also from Vermont. The Montgomery, Alabama situation is very clear that starting on September 7th, sheriff deputies, detention facility correction officers, intake and transport clerks, and young facility detention officers will receive hazard pay. How much is it? $2.50 an hour. It's nearly exactly what the HEROES Act provides under its hazard pay, which remember is $3 an hour. $2.50, pretty darn good. It's added to the regular hourly rate of pay qualified through the CARES Act. This pay is desperately needed to compensate those employees who deal with the public or intake dailies, compensate employees who've had to cancel off longer shifts, and retain and recruit employees during a time of shortage. Frontline workers are qualified. Montgomery's frontline city employees have taken care of us, so we will use our tool as disposal to take care of them, says Mayor Stephen Reed. You know what's very interesting is his comment. You took care of us, we'll take care of you. Okay, what if you're a frontline worker and you go into the fall elections and no one in this Congress is giving you hazard pay? Are you going to vote for them? Oh, hell no. They did not take care of you. And so if you are a presidential candidate, you're trying to court the police unions, or court the firemen's unions, or firepersons unions, or court medical professionals, or shippers, or truckers, or transportation, or anything like that, and you haven't given them a penny, how do you think that's going to go for you? I don't think it's going anywhere. And even amid this uncertainty and anxiety at the height of our region's COVID-19, these dedicated men and women work day in and day out to get the job done and continue to serve and to protect our community regardless of circumstances. Securing additional hours of pay for this is one small way we can show our gratitude, and comes at no cost to Montgomery taxpayers. So if you're a presidential candidate and you haven't done that, boy, it's just not looking good. It doesn't look good for senators as well. It doesn't look good if you're a legislative officer, member of the Senate, member of the House of Representatives, because you haven't gotten it done either. Vermont is dealing with the problems in a far more difficult way. Vermont had some round of hazard pay initially. They started going out to compensate frontline workers in industries like groceries, childcare, and nursery, and started paying it on August 31st about $20 million. And it got to 70 health and human services businesses over the next few days. But they realized that was not enough. So now they're dealing with the strain of what's happening. At the time, 6,000 employees received a $1,200 hazard pay bill, a check, or $2,000 hazard pay bill under the first stage of funding, says Mike Smith, Secretary of the Agency of Human Services. The amount depended on how much they worked when the pandemic first hit from March 13th to May 15th. There was about 500 employers who applied for their applicants, and it accounted for about $10 million. And that applicants were then paid, and the money started going out fast. What's interesting here is what I've talked about when you talk about hazard pay, that you really focus on the March to May period initially when you talk about this. Ironically, in the HEROES Act, hazard pay starts back in January, which is really actually quite good. It says that we're not going to really choose what date the pandemic hit. If it hit in February, it hit in March, we're going to move it back to January. Under the HEROES Act, hazard pay qualifies you from January all the way up to the present for the number of hours you work, whether you're part-time, full-time, overtime. $13 an hour, you calculate it. If it comes to $10,000, it's yours. If you made over $100,000, if you made less than $100,000 last year, it's $5,000 if you made over $100,000 last year. And if you do the calculation and you're not those thresholds, you'll get a lump sum still for the check and get $13 an hour going forward. It would also additionally provide benefits such as safer work environment, and would protect. And these benefits would accrue to those people who are essential workers, as defined in the bill. But no money has been paid. Here we are, we're in September. No money has been paid. And you have things like here in Vermont where we're saying, hey, we need to take care of people from March to May. People see this. People see that Vermont's taking care of their hazard pay employee essential workers from March to May and gave out, $1,200 checks, $2,000 checks. Well, Vermont says that the problem is even more important than that. They say they need a second round of hazard pay for this fall. And so now what they're doing is that they're creating another fund to continue the program when the money runs out. And this will include grocery store workers and others who were left out in the first round. It's completely unfair that the only people who will not receive any support from the federal or state government will be those who are required to work at the highest level of risk at the most stressful time in Vermont modern history, says Senate President Pro Tem Tim Ashe, a Democrat. These are powerful remarks because when we talk about hazard pay and second stimulus and things like that, we always talk about what federal people are doing. Trump cabinet members of Congress, members of the Senate. But back locally, these state representatives, these Senate president, this is a state Senate president. This is not he's not in the Senate, are out talking about, hey, you risked your life at the time of the pandemic. You deserve to be compensated. These are those people talking and saying, not only do you need to be compensated, we need to ensure that everyone gets compensated. We didn't pay grocery store people, so we need to pay you. And additionally, they're saying, hey, we paid you in the spring, we need to pay you again. All that filters back to these elections. Because even if you're in a state where you got hazard pay and you're in Vermont, you're going to sit back and say, Vermont took care of me. I'm a Vermont resident, and they took care of me, but the president didn't. The other presidential candidate didn't. The members of the Senate didn't. The members of the House didn't. I got nothing from those people. They gave me squat for hazard pay. Thank God Vermont took care of me. And then how about the other states where they don't have this type of relief? They're going to see stories like this and reports like this and videos like this that say, hey, Vermont took care of their people for hazard pay. We got jack. In our state, we got nothing. Our state, Gavin Newsom didn't give us any money for grocery store workers. Our state, Andrew Cuomo didn't give us anything if we were Uber and Lyft drivers driving during the pandemic. We didn't get anything. But they did in Vermont. And what that does then is it not only makes a clear message of how government failed you for hazard pay, but it also gives a clear message of why you need to get hazard pay approved now. And as I sit here today, I've ultimately continued to predict that Unions are not going to sit by and let this happen. Unions are simply not going to allow employers to continue to have their workers work in grocery stores and not get paid hazard pay. And as I've detailed on this channel, I'll continue to say it again today, is that as the pandemic continues and the number of people in the store decrease, customers decrease, sales decrease, businesses are just not paying hazard pay, which they call bonuses, and will continue to not pay it until something happens. And that ultimately may come first from the movement of the unions than Mnuchin trying to figure out whether hazard pay is later this month or, I don't know, after a clean CR. If there's ever a day to like and subscribe to this channel, today is the day. Go to the front of this channel, hit the subscribe button. It's on the front of this channel. Hit the subscribe and hit the alert. It's important that you subscribe to this channel so you get an alert when a new video goes live. If you're in the comments of this channel and you don't see a little red button next to your name, that means you haven't hit the alert, the subscribe correctly. Go into the pinned comments of this video and I have a description about how to ensure you are a subscriber. I respond to subscriber comments before unsubscribe comments. It involves unliking and unliking, and it'll detail for you. Moreover, if we get to 250,000 subscribers in the next 48 hours, which is about 7,000 subscribers away, I will release a never-before-seen footage of a 100,000 subscriber special that was taped on location at the beach, never before released, that has incredible behind-the-scenes footage you would be really quite surprised to see. So let's try to do that. Also, hit the like button. It helps the video appear higher in the algorithms, especially in a day in which very few people are reporting about hazard pay. Coming up next is FPUC, LWA, and UI. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, stay focused, and stay FLA for more.